Have you ever felt it? That quiet, persistent ache? The one that tells you something is deeply wrong with the world and maybe with you. It's the feeling that you're living on a treadmill you didn't ask to get on, running faster and faster, but never actually going anywhere. You wake up, and before your feet even hit the floor, your mind is already racing, checking notifications, scrolling through feeds, consuming. You're not just living, you're performing. You're broadcasting your life for an audience that doesn't even know you, seeking validation in likes and comments. You feel exhausted, drained, and strangely empty, but you can't stop. And the scariest part? You don't know why. You've been told your whole life that to succeed, you have to be loud. You have to be visible. You have to fight for your place in the spotlight. Every app, every headline, every social media trend is a siren call promising relevance and connection. But what if all of it is a lie? What if the very things we are told will make us powerful are the things that are keeping us weak? Let's talk about noise. The modern world is a symphony of it, a constant, deafening hum designed to capture and hold your attention hostage. It's the endless stream of news, the viral debates, the petty arguments, the desperate need to stay updated. We are so busy consuming noise that we've forgotten how to create silence. We've forgotten how to think. The truth is, they don't want you to think. They want you distracted. A distracted mind is a predictable mind. A distracted mind is a controllable mind. Niccolo Machiavelli, centuries ago, understood this better than anyone. He wasn't just a political philosopher, he was a master of human psychology. He saw that true power wasn't about titles or armies, but about controlling the mind. He wrote, "He who wishes to control others must first control their thoughts." In his time, this was done with force and deceit. Today, it's done with algorithms and content. The modern-day ruler doesn't need to brandish a sword. He just needs to capture your attention. Think about it. The man who can't control what he focuses on will always be under someone else's influence. Every time you jump into an argument to prove a point, every time you chase another trend just to feel relevant, every time you react to someone's opinion, you are bleeding out your power one moment at a time. Your energy, your most sacred currency, is being spent on things that don't matter. And slowly, you don't just become tired, you become lost. You stop thinking for yourself and start becoming part of the noise. You blend into a world where everyone is yelling, but no one is thinking. This is self-sabotage. This is the opposite of power. Machiavelli would call the man who cannot direct his own mind a man who is destined to be ruled. But here's the part people misunderstand. Focus isn't isolation. It's not about cutting yourself off from the world or living in a sterile, silent bubble. It's about learning to protect your inner space. It's about choosing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You don't respond to everything because not everything deserves your response. You don't react to every insult because not every battle is worth fighting. True power is quiet. It's not measured by how much noise you make, but by how much noise you can rise above. The world today feeds on your distraction. Every app, every headline, every notification is designed to pull you away from yourself. The more they pull you away, the less of you remains. Machiavelli would say, this is how rulers are made, not by forcing obedience, but by creating confusion. A confused man doesn't rebel. He scrolls, he sleeps, he forgets. And when he forgets who he is, the world has already won. Your attention is sacred. Where your attention goes, your life follows. You must treat your focus like a king treats his fortress. Guard it, defend it, not with fear, but with strategy. Let others waste their time. Let them chase approval. Let them drown in noise. You, on the other hand, will observe. You will think. You will plan. You will move with purpose. That's how you win. Not by being everywhere, but by being exactly where you need to be. If you truly want to become powerful in today's world, stop chasing everything. Pick a direction, choose your mission, eliminate what distracts you, and double down on what builds you. The man who commits to one purpose becomes unshakable. Machiavelli knew this. He believed that greatness is not in the man who knows everything, but in the man who knows where he's going and refuses to be pulled away. So, ask yourself, are you bleeding energy into the hands of fools? Or are you using your silence to build an empire? Because silence is not weakness, it's control. It's the ability to stay calm when others panic. It's choosing to think when others react. It's being the one who moves while others are still talking. Machiavelli would call this supreme intelligence, to act not out of emotion, but out of calculated wisdom. You don't need to announce your power. You don't need to prove anything. Your focus will speak for you. And when people can't figure you out, when you no longer react, no longer explain, no longer entertain nonsense, they will fear what you're building. Let them. You are not here to be understood. You are here to dominate your time, protect your energy, and rise quietly. From this moment on, protect your attention like your life depends on it, because it does. Let others lose themselves in noise. Let others live for approval. You build in silence. You grow in silence. And one day, they will hear the echo of everything you created and wonder how they missed it. If you're done wasting your strength on the meaningless, write this down and live by it. My silence builds empires. The world doesn't just want your attention, it wants to drain it. Not all at once, but bit by bit, until there's nothing left of you to build anything with. Your dreams, your focus, your potential slowly eaten away by endless distractions. That's the trap. They want your focus to be cheap, easy to steal, easy to break. But if you want to build something powerful, something real, your focus must become expensive, unreachable, guarded, and protected like a fortress. That means cutting off anything that drains you, even if it once made you laugh, even if it once made you feel connected. Because comfort and connection aren't always good. Sometimes they are the chains that stop you evolving. In a world addicted to noise, real power doesn't need to shout. It just needs to concentrate. A sharp, focused mind is infinitely more powerful than a loud one. Machiavelli would agree. In his time, he watched rulers fall not because they lacked armies, but because they lacked focus. Power slips away from those who give their energy to everything and everyone. So if you're truly done trading your mind for distractions, if you're tired of being pulled in every direction except forward, then say it out loud or write it down. I guard my focus like a weapon. Because you must. The man who protects his attention protects his future.
Now, understand this. Isolation isn't weakness. It's refinement. People will say you've changed. They'll call you distant, cold, even arrogant. But that's not the truth. What they really mean is that you've stopped being available to their chaos. You've stopped being easy to reach, easy to distract, easy to manipulate. And that shift scares them because the moment you stop being part of their noise, they lose control over you. Machiavelli wrote that a wise man must learn to be alone, not because solitude is easy, but because it's powerful. Silence is not empty, it's full of answers. In the silence, you see clearly. In isolation, you sharpen your mind. The modern world celebrates the man who's always present, always posting, always showing up everywhere. But the man who disappears to rebuild himself, that man returns 10 times stronger. And they don't know how to handle him. You're not avoiding people. You're avoiding noise, confusion, and emotional pollution. Every moment you spend explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand you is a moment lost. And a man serious about his mission doesn't explain, he demonstrates. His results will speak far louder than his presence ever could. So you isolate, not to escape, but to regenerate. You go silent, not to be forgotten, but to become unforgettable. While they waste time broadcasting their lives for likes and comments, you go dark. You stop posting. You stop reacting. And while they talk, you're recalibrating. While they chase attention, you're becoming someone who doesn't chase at all because he commands it without trying. Machiavelli believed that the greatest leaders don't reveal everything. They observe, they wait, they plan in silence. And when they move, it's with purpose. Let others laugh at your silence. Let them think you've fallen behind, because they'll be the loudest until the moment you return and silence the room just by walking into it. If you've ever felt the pull to disappear, to vanish from the noise and become something greater, trust it. It's not weakness, it's the beginning of strength. Go where no one can distract you. Build where no one can reach you. Refine yourself in peace. And when you're ready to come back, they won't even recognize you. So, if that's where you are now, stepping away from the noise, stepping into the fire, then write this down as a promise to yourself. My silence is sacred. Because when you return, it won't be with words. It'll be with results. And those speak louder than anything else. The one who reacts first loses. In a world where everyone is screaming to be seen, real power is found in silence. Not cowardice, not passivity, but calculated silence, the kind that unnerves everyone around you. Weak minds react instantly. They flinch, they explain, they defend. One emotional outburst and you're no longer the one in control. They are. Because the truth is, they don't provoke you out of care. They provoke you to test the strings inside your mind, to see if they still own you emotionally. And every time you snap, argue, or over-explain, you confirm their dominance. You become predictable, and predictable men are controllable. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He once said, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. But today, intelligence isn't measured by who surrounds you. It's measured by how calm you remain when everything around you burns. In chaos, your emotional discipline becomes your crown. When they can't read you, they fear you. When they can't provoke you, they lose all leverage. Because silence confuses, stillness terrifies. You become the anomaly, the one they can't decode, the one who doesn't flinch. Your emotions must be trained like a soldier. No response unless it serves your strategy. No outburst unless it strengthens your long game. No explanation unless it buys you power. Everything else, you keep it locked away behind unreadable eyes. Let them guess. Let them panic in the shadows of your stillness. This is the realm where most people fall. They are addicts, addicted to reaction, addicted to being understood. But you, the Machiavellian man, you don't crave validation. You crave control. You don't want to be understood. You want to be unreadable. And if someone has ever baited you into defending your peace, remember this. You are not here to react. You are here to rule. The less they know about you, the more power you hold, and the more they fear. Self-focus builds leverage. Power doesn't need applause. It doesn't explain itself. It simply exists, silent and undeniable. In every room, there are two kinds of men. The one who speaks to prove himself, and the one who listens to assess. The loud one fights for approval. The quiet one collects intel, studies weakness, and maps emotional triggers. And guess who walks away with the advantage? It's always the one who doesn't need to dominate the room, because he already dominates the battlefield inside his own mind. This is where Machiavelli's doctrine strikes hardest. He didn't romanticize fairness, he romanticized control. He understood that people only respect what they fear losing. Not charm, not kindness, but leverage. And leverage comes from obsession. Obsession with self-focus, with refining your mind when no one is watching, with elevating your value in silence. Every hour you spend sharpening your intellect, building your craft, mastering your solitude, those hours don't just make you better, they make you irreplaceable. You see, the man who disappears for a year to build his empire isn't running away. He's recalibrating. He's storing leverage. And when he returns, 10 steps ahead, calm, composed, and silent, they will feel it. They'll talk less, and they'll listen more. Not because he demanded respect, but because he became the man they can't afford to lose. That's not power from noise. That's power forged through cold self-discipline and an unshakable inner structure. And here's the cruel truth Machiavelli would whisper to you today. Let them chase applause. You chase refinement. Let them argue for relevance. You build results. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth is the moment your worth multiplies. Because when you build yourself in silence, the world has no choice but to acknowledge you in awe. Not through arguments, not through defense, but through sheer presence. That's psychological warfare. That's Machiavelli mastery. So remember, real influence doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It doesn't need permission. It walks into the room and changes the atmosphere. And if they try to compete, you don't react. You don't defend. You simply exist above them. You make your absence expensive. Not to impress, but to protect what is sacred. Because once a man turns his focus inward, he stops negotiating his worth outward. The applause fades, the noise dims, and what's left? Clarity. A kind of sharp, dangerous clarity that the world fears. This is the moment you stop broadcasting and begin building quietly, unapologetically. While others flaunt every move for digital validation, you become the ghost in the room, unseen, unheard, and therefore unshaken. If you're building your empire where no one's watching, declare it now. My focus is my throne. Because when you return, it won't be with words. It'll be with results. And those speak louder than anything else. The one who reacts first loses. In a world where everyone is screaming to be seen, real power is found in silence. Not cowardice, not passivity, but calculated silence, the kind that unnerves everyone around you. Weak minds react instantly. They flinch, they explain, they defend. One emotional outburst, and you're no longer the one in control. They are. Because the truth is, they don't provoke you out of care. They provoke you to test the strings inside your mind, to see if they still own you emotionally. And every time you snap, argue, or over-explain, you confirm their dominance. You become predictable, and predictable men are controllable. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He once said, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. But today, intelligence isn't measured by who surrounds you. It's measured by how calm you remain when everything around you burns. In chaos, your emotional discipline becomes your crown. When they can't read you, they fear you. When they can't provoke you, they lose all leverage. Because silence confuses, stillness terrifies. You become the anomaly, the one they can't decode, the one who doesn't flinch. Your emotions must be trained like a soldier. No response unless it serves your strategy. No outburst unless it strengthens your long game. No explanation unless it buys you power. Everything else, you keep it locked away behind unreadable eyes. Let them guess. Let them panic in the shadows of your stillness. This is the realm where most people fall. They are addicts, addicted to reaction, addicted to being understood. But you, the Machiavellian man, you don't crave validation. You crave control. You don't want to be understood. You want to be unreadable. And if someone has ever baited you into defending your peace, remember this. You are not here to react.
You are here to rule. The less they know about you, the more power you hold, and the more they fear. Self-focus builds leverage.
Power doesn't need applause. It doesn't need to explain itself. It simply exists, silent and undeniable. In every room, there are two kinds of men: the one who speaks to prove himself, and the one who listens to assess. The loud one fights for approval. The quiet one collects intel, studies weakness, and maps emotional triggers. And guess who walks away with the advantage? It's always the one who doesn't need to dominate the room, because he already dominates the battlefield inside his own mind. This is where Machiavelli's doctrine strikes hardest. He didn't romanticize fairness, he romanticized control. He understood that people only respect what they fear losing. Not charm, not kindness, but leverage. And leverage comes from obsession. Obsession with self-focus, with refining your mind when no one is watching, with elevating your value in silence. Every hour you spend sharpening your intellect, building your craft, mastering your solitude, those hours don't just make you better, they make you irreplaceable. You see, the man who disappears for a year to build his empire isn't running away. He's recalibrating. He's storing leverage. And when he returns, 10 steps ahead, calm, composed, and silent, they will feel it. They'll talk less and they'll listen more. Not because he demanded respect, but because he became the man they can't afford to lose. That's not power from noise. That's power forged through cold self-discipline and an unshakable inner structure. And here's the cruel truth Machiavelli would whisper to you today. Let them chase applause. You chase refinement. Let them argue for relevance. You build results. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth is the moment your worth multiplies. Because when you build yourself in silence, the world has no choice but to acknowledge you in awe. Not through arguments, not through defense, but through sheer presence. That's psychological warfare. That's Machiavellian mastery. So remember, real influence doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't need permission. It walks into the room and changes the atmosphere. And if they try to compete, you don't react, you don't defend, you simply exist above them. You make your absence expensive, not to impress, but to protect what is sacred. Because once a man turns his focus inward, he stops negotiating his worth outward. The applause fades, the noise dims, and what's left is clarity. A kind of sharp, dangerous clarity that the world fears. This is the moment you stop broadcasting and begin building quietly, unapologetically. While others flaunt every move for digital validation, you become the ghost in the room, unseen, unheard, and therefore unshaken. If you're building your empire where no one's watching, declare it now. My focus is my throne. Because in a world addicted to noise, silence is a power play. The world doesn't kneel to the loudest voice. It bows to the calmest mind with the deepest leverage. And here lies the brutal truth. Most people don't chase real power. They chase attention and mistake it for power. They want to be noticed, applauded, and praised. They want the glow of being admired without the grit of being feared. But Machiavelli would scoff at this weakness. He who seeks the approval of the crowd will be governed by it, he said. The more you need to be seen, the easier you are to manipulate. Because when your self-worth is tied to noise, you are no longer sovereign, you're predictable. And a predictable man is never powerful. He's just a puppet dressed in status, waiting for applause. Validation, in its modern form, is a leash. Not a visible one, but a psychological tether disguised in likes, hearts, emojis, and polite praise. It doesn't tighten suddenly. It seduces slowly. You begin to crave it, Then depend on it until it controls your rhythm. The moment someone disapproves, your mind shatters. One comment ruins your peace. One ignored message kills your drive. That's not confidence. That's a program. And if you can be programmed, you can be broken. The algorithm doesn't reward authenticity. It rewards obedience. When you're tame, it feeds you dopamine. When you're real, it starves you. That's not affirmation. That's manipulation, coded and polished to look like freedom. Machiavelli never played that game. He never begged the crowd to clap. He wasn't interested in being adored. He was obsessed with leverage, control, and outcome. He understood what most still refuse to accept. The more you depend on others for your sense of self, the less of it you actually own. So let this be the turning point. If you still need eyes on you to feel important, you've already surrendered your mind. Most people walk around starving for approval, and they don't even know it. They scroll, they post, they wait, and their emotions swing based on a stranger's opinion. That's not individuality. That's submission in disguise. That's emotional slavery, and it's wearing a smile. But there is another path, a colder one, a lonely one. But it is also the only one that leads to unshakable self-possession. You must kill the need to be seen. You must validate yourself, not through expression, but through execution. Not through praise, but through progress. Not through attention, but through silence. Let your discipline be your applause. Let your results be your biography. Let your absence say more than your presence ever could. This is the Machiavellian mindset. The less they know, the more they fear. Real power doesn't announce itself. It builds, it sharpens, it calculates in silence, then strikes without warning. So, if you've ever felt the pull to vanish, to go dark, to rise quietly in the shadows, listen to it. It's not fear, it's your future calling. And when you return, you won't recognize yourself. You'll be remembered. The world forgets those who speak too often, but it never forgets the man who arrives with precision, with scars hidden under silence, and with a presence too heavy to ignore. This is not about ego. It's about elevation. It's about learning how to become untouchable, not by shouting louder, but by mastering yourself so deeply that no one can shake your center. And when you return from this silence, expect one thing: they'll test you. Not with swords, but with disrespect, with backhanded comments, with condescending tones, with subtle dismissals meant to trigger your pride. This is not random, it's a tactic. The world always tries to belittle what it cannot understand. That's why your next step is crucial. Never tolerate disrespect. Not once, not ever. Because if they disrespect you once and you let it slide, they will believe it is permitted. And what is permitted becomes the new standard. Machiavelli understood this law of power well. Men should either be treated generously or destroyed, he wrote, because they take revenge for slight injuries. For heavy ones, they cannot. That means if you allow minor disrespect, you create enemies who now see you as weak, and weak men invite greater attacks. You must correct it immediately, not emotionally, not violently, but surgically. Calm, deliberate, and without hesitation. If someone mocks you in front of others, correct them in front of others. Not to humiliate them, but to draw the line with such clarity that no one ever crosses it again. Respect is not requested, it is enforced through presence, boundaries, and consequence. And here's the trap most fall into. They confuse kindness with tolerance. But Machiavelli would warn, if your mercy is mistaken for weakness, you have failed in leadership. A strong man can be kind, but the moment someone uses that kindness against him, he must become cold, composed, and exacting. because every act of tolerated disrespect chips away at your authority, your influence, and your identity. So, guard your name, guard your silence, guard your space. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be respected. And respect is not built by explaining yourself to fools. It's built by showing, through quiet strength, ruthless standards, and unapologetic self-respect, that some boundaries are not negotiable. Not today, not ever.
That's what the world fears. Not the man who shouts for attention, but the man who vanishes into silence to build something no applause could ever match. The man who returns without asking permission, without validation, because what he's built speaks for him. He doesn't beg for praise, he commands respect. This man kills the modern impulse, the need to post the plan before it's executed, to show his work before it's complete, to celebrate before the battle is even won. That is the disease of our time, mistaking attention for achievement. But the Machiavellian man, he is immune to that virus. He doesn't need to be seen. He needs to be sovereign, and that's why he wins. Not through noise, but through clarity, through results, through a focus that doesn't flinch. When others are busy performing for an audience, he is busy performing in silence, under pressure, in discomfort, in solitude. And when he returns, when he emerges from the shadows fully formed, calm and unshaken, they will ask, how? How did he rise while they were explaining themselves? How did he evolve while they were chasing applause? How did he become untouchable without ever raising his voice? And his answer will be silence. Because real growth doesn't explain, it transforms. It doesn't knock, it enters. It doesn't beg, it reigns. So if you've started to detach from performance, understand that this is not withdrawal. It is ascension. It's the first sign of sovereignty. The man who no longer seeks their eyes becomes the shadow that controls their world. The man who no longer needs approval becomes the one who sets the standards for others. And that's where discipline enters, not as motivation, but as the fortress that guards power. Discipline is the only true fortress. Machiavelli didn't preach morning routines, he preached control. And before you can control empires, influence men, or shape outcomes, you must first master the war within your hours. The untouchable man does not rely on inspiration. He doesn't wait to feel ready. He decides to be ready daily, without emotion, without excuse. While others wait for the mood to strike, he strikes regardless of mood. Because in the game of power, time is your greatest currency, and structure is how you invest it. Look around. Most people are exhausted not from working hard, but from working blindly. They chase goals with no foundation. They burn energy with no routine. They move but not build. They're loud but not effective. They mistake activity for progress. But not you. Not if you've come this far. You don't chase chaos, you command clarity. And clarity begins with systems that don't waver. Every controlled hour is a weapon. Every repeated habit is armor. Every disciplined decision is a strike against mediocrity. The world doesn't see the man who wakes up at 5 a.m. with no applause, who trains in silence, who reads in darkness, who executes without needing an audience. But they feel him. His results echo louder than their distractions. That's the power Machiavelli understood. Invisible preparation creates undeniable presence. This isn't about perfection, it's about predictability. Predictability not to others, but to yourself. When your body acts before your mind can make an excuse, you've won. That's freedom. Real freedom isn't the absence of structure, it's having complete ownership over it. The freest man has mastered limitation. He moves not because he's pushed, but because he's programmed by design. Motivation is for amateurs. Systems are for rulers.
The man of structure doesn't ask, "Do I feel like it?" He says it gets done no matter what. While others burn out chasing dopamine, he builds discipline into his bones. He doesn't rely on feelings, he relies on code. That's not glamorous, it's elite. That's not viral, it's vital. And here's the truth. When people realize you don't waste time, they know you won't waste power. They start to fear not your energy, but your order, not your volume, but your consistency. You don't just own time, you weaponize it. Then comes the sharpest edge in your arsenal, emotional detachment. The weapon no one sees coming, because when the world loses control, the man who remains calm becomes the most dangerous. The man who observes without reacting, who sees everything but reveals nothing, cannot be predicted and therefore cannot be controlled. Machiavelli would remind you, men are driven by love and fear, but fear is far more reliable. Love expects softness, fear respects silence. And silence, when chosen with clarity, is more powerful than any emotional response. You do not owe them explanation, you owe yourself command. The second they know what upsets you, they own you. The second they provoke a reaction, you lose leverage. You're not here to be triggered, you're here to track, to study, to respond, not with noise, but with movement. To act, not with feeling, but with precision. The Machiavellian man doesn't shout, he doesn't beg, he doesn't even defend. He simply no longer plays the game. While others fight to be heard, he controls the outcome silently. You don't need closure, you need clarity. You don't need revenge, you need elevation. When they see they no longer affect you, not your mood, not your mission, not your focus, they'll realize they've already lost. You're not here to be understood, you're here to be untouchable. So let them talk, let them judge, let them misunderstand. The more they speculate, the more energy they burn, while you conserve yours for results. That's strategy. That's power. And that's the Machiavellian edge, mastering time, mastering self, and mastering silence. Because in the end, the man who doesn't need anything from the world becomes the one the world can no longer ignore. This kind of power doesn't erupt, it evolves quietly, relentlessly. It builds itself in the background, unnoticed by those too distracted to recognize it. And this is where you live now, beyond their noise, beyond their reach. You study while they sleep, you plan while they gossip, you train while they doubt you. Because every quiet hour you invest, every unseen sacrifice you make, it compounds. And soon, you're not just progressing, you're separating. You're creating distance not just from others, but from the weak version of yourself that once sought comfort. While they scramble for attention, you're sharpening your edge. While they beg for validation, you build leverage. You're no longer trying to be seen, you're becoming impossible to ignore. And the truth is, you don't return to who you once were. That man is a memory now. He did what he had to do, bore the weight of old weaknesses, learned the hard lessons. But now he's gone, replaced by someone who doesn't flinch under pressure, doesn't fold under criticism, and never again fails himself. You've become the thing they feared you'd become, someone completely in control. This is the Machiavellian truth. Power never begs. It doesn't announce itself with noise. Real power moves in silence. It calculates, it controls, and above all, it masters itself before it ever masters others. You've walked the path from chaos to clarity, from distraction to discipline, from insecurity to internal sovereignty. That path doesn't need a spotlight. It demands solitude. So let them talk, let them wonder, let them underestimate. Because while they're busy trying to decode your silence, you're already 10 moves ahead. If you've made it this far, if you've walked this entire journey with me, then say it to yourself. They can't reach me anymore. I've become the silence they can't decode. And never forget, true power is never loud. It doesn't seek applause. It doesn't chase closure. It simply moves, sharp and deliberate. That's the Machiavellian way. And now, it's yours.